The final week of the Tour de France features 3 massive days climbing in the Alps, starting with the Alpe Singular, Alpe d'Huez. 45 minutes of lactic acid overload measured out in 21 hairpin bends. The Alp seems to have been around forever, which of course it has, but it was only added to the cycling map of the world in 1952, when Fausto Coppi claimed it for Italy.
Coppi est seul et termine premier à l'Alpe d'Huez, où il prend pour la première fois le maillot jaune.
Perhaps not realising the full T-shirt selling potential of what they'd discovered, the tour organisers didn't schedule another visit until 1976. By then, the Alp was in colour, orange mostly, as the Dutch, apparently mistaking it for an unusually steep beer garden, staged a lock-in lasting nearly 15 years. From 76 to 89, the race came here 12 times. The Dutch, with riders like Zoetemelk, Kuiper, Rooks and Teunissen, won 8 of them.
Victory on the top of Alpe d'Huez, high in the Alps, and this rider here beats every one of them. Steven Rooks now, 6 hours and 55 minutes and 44 seconds his time.
Since then, the legend and the crowds have grown in equal proportion, each stage a story in itself.
And the 2 greatest riders have ripped the field apart, and an arm goes round, What has Greg LeMond said to Bernard? The smile, this is unbelievable.
One of the great Alpe d'Huez battles was between teammates. In 1986, Greg LeMond hauled his yellow jersey up the mountain under relentless attack from Bernard Hinault. A diplomatic truce was called at the line, Hinault winning the stage, LeMond the Tour.
There we are, the first time I've ever seen it. 2 men coming up the Tour de France and now do it together. Greg LeMond and Bernard Hinault have won this Tour de France together this year, and that's for sure, even if LeMond is the one wearing the leader's yellow jersey.
Happy? Very.
And it was on the Alp in 2001 that Lance Armstrong gave Jan Ullrich the look, a ruthless 1-second once-over before launching an unanswerable attack to take his first Alpe d'Huez victory and effectively his 3rd Tour.
He took a look straight into the eyes there of Jan Ullrich and said, well, here I go, are you coming or not? And the answer is not.
The most charismatic climber of his generation, Marco Pantani, won here twice, in 1995 to mark his return from a career-threatening injury, and in 1997 setting a record of 37 minutes 35 for the 13.9-kilometre climb. In truth, there are taller mountains and steeper gradients to be found elsewhere, but the Alp has transcended cycling to become an event in itself, a place of pilgrimage and celebration, half Calvary, half Glastonbury. And its popularity sometimes threatens to overwhelm it. As long ago as 1988, Fabio Parra was robbed of victory by the crowds blocking the route.
The cameras are really making a mess up of this finish, because now is when these riders really want to attack and they're blocking all the riders in.
For Giuseppe Guerini in '99, it took only 1 fan and an Instamatic.
That is disgraceful. Right in the way of going, a spectator got in the way. Well, I can't believe that. I've never seen that happen before here at Alpe d'Huez. And that man I was about to tell you was going to his first victory of the season.
Fortunately, Guerini survived his meeting with Eric the Fan to take the stage. And the idea of turning Alpe d'Huez into a time trial venue in 2004 became a trial by ordeal for Lance Armstrong, thrown to the French fans at the height of his powers and the apex of his unpopularity. But it's not just the fans. The Alp is struggling to accommodate its champions too, with each of the 21 bends named after a previous winner, and the Tour on its 25th visit. Riders, even legendary ones, are having to double up. Tonight, another champion will have to shuffle over and make room. Whether that name will come from the ranks of the current top 6, though, is about as predictable as the rest of this Tour so far, which is to say not at all. Oscar Pereiro leads by 1 minute 29 from Floyd Landis, the race favourite. Denis Menchov is 4th at 2 minutes 30 behind Cyril Dessel. Then come Cadel Evans at 2 minutes 46 and Carlos Sastre at 3:21. The T-Mobile pair of Andreas Klöden and Michael Rogers are just outside the top 6, ahead of Juan Miguel Mercado. 2 British riders, David Miller and Bradley Wiggins, are 75th and 130th. So today's the day for the serious contenders, not necessarily to win the stage, but to stake their claim to the yellow jersey. Men like Landis, who's already had it once and given it away, Evans, the big Australian hope, Klurden, who's finished second in the Tour, higher than any of the other contenders. His teammate come rival Rogers, and Sastre, CSC's only hope since the departure of Ivan Basso. And then there's the Russian, Denis Menchov.
Who was your pre-tour favourite? If you followed any of these magazines, it wasn't the man who's currently best placed to challenge Floyd Landis for race victory. Denis Menchov doesn't get a mention.
Yet in 2003, he won the Best Young Rider classification and stood on the Tour de France podium in Paris beside Lance Armstrong. And last year, he won the Tour of Spain. 5 days ago at Prada Barret, he showed how formidable he can be at the end of a long mountain stage. As an expression of willpower, his finish line celebration spoke for itself.
Here he comes. I'm not sure they can handle this one. It looks to me as though Denis Menchov is going to make this for the victory. He gets it. Leipheimer second, Landis third.
It's my first victory in the Tour. If for general classification, I think it is important also because I have to stay with favorites like Landis, like Klurden, Moreau. Today we satisfied it.
A characteristic soundbite from a man who lives with his wife and their 2 young children near Miguel Indurain in the Basque Country and can be almost as reticent as the great Spaniard himself. At 5'10", 64 kilos and hailing from the flat town of Oral south of Moscow, he's an unlikely climbing specialist. And he's so softly spoken, it's taken his directeur sportif Eric Breukink a year to understand just what makes the taciturn Russian tick.
It's not a guy from many words. He's very quiet and he doesn't like so much all the attention. He wants to ride his bike and he wants to show that he's good on the bike.
On the Pla de Barret, he and Landis were more or less evenly matched. Over the long time trial around Rennes 10 days ago, Menchov conceded 43 seconds to Landis over 52 kilometers. He could do the same again next Saturday.
And now it's a question of suffering, who can suffer the most in the Alps and who stays steady, because a lot of guys are one day bad, one day good. And now the most consistent guy will win this Tour.
His task in the Alps between now and Thursday is to make up his current deficit on Landis and add another minute in view of the final time trial. And where better to start than here on the slopes of Alpe d'Huez this afternoon.
Well, there's a fair bit to do today before Menchov and co get to Alpe d'Huez. The first climb of the day is the giant Col d'Izoard, 2,360 metres at the summit. Then comes the Col du Lautaret, just over 2,000 metres, before the final climb up to Alpe d'Huez. Well, the sort-out began early on the slopes of the Izoard. A group of 25 was out front, including the polka dot jersey, David de la Fuente, and one of his rivals in the King of the Mountains competition, Fabian Wegmann. Way at the back, Tom Burnham was already struggling. So was Robbie McEwen, although at least he was working on his tan lines. As the lead group climbed the Izoard, Italy's Stefano Garzelli attacked smoothly off the front of it with a gear change no one could, or at least wanted, to follow. But through all this, the group containing the yellow jersey, Oscar Pereira, who had his men on the front, was riding a steady tempo. And Chris Boardman, I suppose at this point, that's none too surprising.
Well, it must be incredibly nerve-wracking for Floyd Landis to see so many people going up the road at this stage in the race. But he knows, or he's starting to learn, that if he's going to win the Tour overall, he has to wait until the final few kilometres. He can't expend energy early on. And it would seem all the other favourites, of course, are doing exactly the same thing. I have to say, his tactics have been somewhat vindicated as well by giving away that yellow jersey. There's now Castapagna, of course, doing all the early chasing. The really important bit for him is that he makes sure he gets to the last climb with all the favourites around him. It's a race within a race. All of the GC contenders are going to watch and test each other while the others can go and dispute the stage.
Well, Garzelli was caught on the descent of the Izoard, and after a cataclysmic burst of rain as they came down the Col de Lautaret, that lead group of 25 is all together approaching the Alpe. The bunch containing the yellow jersey and all the contenders for it are just over 4 minutes back.
That's it. 0 kilometres, and that is now the start of the Alpe. L'Alpe d'Huez, and here's the first move. Patxi Millar moves over to the front, sets the pace over the first few hundred metres or so, dancing out of the saddle. There is Jens Voigt in second position. There you can see, moving up there as well, was Axel Merck. Zabriskie, well done, job done for him. 14.3 kilometers to go to the finish. Cunego in the middle, Hincapie just sitting at the back. Must be a bit strange for George Hincapie this afternoon. And Sylvain Chavanel, can he do it for France? He's decided, he's been so close to the victory. Now he's decided to take the big risk here this afternoon as he accelerates. Chase is being taken up by Ruben Lobato there in the yellow of Saunier Duval. He now knows that this is important. Stefano Garzelli also taking the pace up. Job done for Jens Voigt. He's just going to try and survive on the slopes of this climb. Patxi Villars set it up for his teammate. Now he too can only hope to survive, and he has gone to the back. Now there's the move by Damiano Cunego. Lobato responds immediately right onto the wheel of the Italian champion. David Arroyo up there in third place. It's all being very nervous.
Well, that's the first acceleration. I think it's come there from Damiano Cunego. Cunego has started the first one here, and that stretched them 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 riders. George Hincapie still tagged on the back, the king of the mountain so far.
Got to wonder what is going through the mind of George Hincapie. You know, for 7 years, Phil, whenever the Tour de France has come here, Hincapie's had only one thing in the back of his mind when he's thought about Alpe d'Huez: pace Lance Armstrong for as long as possible, stay with him for as long as possible, and then sit up and wait and try and get yourself to the finish. He is now in a situation where he may well even be nurturing thoughts of trying to win this stage this afternoon, but to do so he's got to stay in contact with big men like Damiano Cunego. The main field now approaching the foot of the Alpe d'Huez. In a moment they'll take a left-hand sweeper, and that group of about 80 riders will very shortly become 20, then 10, then 5.
This is Sylvain Chavanel. He had a show of defiance, but I think he's paid the price straight away on the slower slopes. And George Hincapie and Garzelli here, they're going to have to try and recover. Been a problem here at the back. Samuel Dumoulin there has given a bike away to Dessel.
Dessel must have had a problem, must have been a mechanical problem there, and he's got to get himself back into this race.
They are going up this mountain like it's a flat road here.
This man trying to write his name into the Italian cycling history books as we go a little bit further down the slope.
Now, what's
Floyd
this?
Landis is at the front. He's got one of his teammates there trying to set him up for maybe courting out the rest of the riders in this race. There's Cadel Evans. Andreas Kloden is there too. These guys now have decided to go for it.
This is a select little group here now. This is Kloden trying to go on the left of our picture. Michael Rogers, no trouble. Floyd Landis watching them both slipping in. That was a huge effort by Landis, his teammate, to split them away. And Denny Menchov hasn't crossed the gap yet, but Cadel Evans has. This is the battle for the Tour de France now.
Well, I didn't see the yellow jersey there of Oscar Pereira. There's a little bit of chaos at the start of the climb here, Phil, because of the large number of riders who started this climb together. We're going to have to work our way through here like everybody else in the Tour de France this afternoon. But while at the front, we now have two leaders. Frank Schleck of Luxembourg, joined by Damiano Cunego. David Arroyo, who was in the leading breakaway, he is now starting to go backwards.
Well, we got that bit right. We saw the way the teammates were working to get these two in the lead. So far, so good. Mazzolini and Lobato having a little bit of trouble keeping them in their sights now as they continue to corkscrew towards the summit. People here have waited since last Saturday, and the riders arriving here at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, and here they come. Further down, look at the face of Floyd Landis there. And Menchov has arrived.
He has come back. He saw the danger, pulled himself back into this race. It was all set up a little bit by Floyd Landis in the lime green there, but look at the gaps now starting to appear behind everybody. Cadel Evans saw the danger. He looks very comfortable up there for Australia. Matthias Kessler was the rider from T-Mobile who was in the front end of this group. This is the back end of the group, and lots of riders now, Phil, starting to disappear. Patrick Sinkiewicz at the back end of the group. These are riders who have been left behind on the early couple of kilometers of the Alpe d'Huez this afternoon. There's the yellow jersey.
Yes, but where is he on the climb? He's got to lose a minute 29 to the man who's only just ahead of him around the corner just now. Is Floyd Landis, so he hasn't lost the race lead yet on this first of 3 days in the Alps.
Hi, I'm Denis Menchov. You can see more Tour de France after break.
Welcome back. Still over 11 kilometers to climb on Alpe d'Huez. Damiano Cunego and Frank Schleck are trying to stay away for the stage win. Behind them, Landis, Kloden, Rogers and Menchov are disputing the race overall.
Floyd Landis is waiting here. Landis is in a terrifically strong position now, and Menchov, I don't know where he's gone, but he must have unhooked. This is amazing. Landis can win the Tour today if Menchov has gone.
Well, Menchov was the man who we expected. There he is. He's been put into difficulty, a fraction. He's lost himself 10 or 15 meters. There's the next group and his teammates coming up. Michael Bogard, the champion of Holland, riding a brilliant Tour here this afternoon. If they come up to Dennis Menchov, then we will see a situation where it goes advantage back to Rabobank.
Frank Schleck here, Damiano Cunego racing for the win on the Alp, and that is significant for these two riders, but they're not in a position to win the Tour de France yet, although remember that Schleck is not that far behind if he gets big time at the summit. The Maillot Jaune here is not yet out of this race, and he looks as though he's got a calm and collected body today. He's still thinking well, he's thinking positively. He hasn't lost the Tour yet.
There's no way he can panic. Looks
Chris
as if
Horner just behind
Chris
him.
Horner coming up alongside here. He's a teammate of Cadel Evans. This is the face of Dennis Menchov, just looking down at the gears, trying to get himself back into the bike race. Round the corner, there isn't anybody. Let me see the straight open up and see whether or not I can ride myself back to the leaders. There, just in front, about 150 meters, is Cloden, followed by Landis, followed by Evans. But Cloden today is not the same man, Phil, as we saw in the Pyrenees.
We'll see. He's got a few kilometres to go yet, and that's when he got cramped last time. We'll see if he's improved over the week. But Andreas Cloden here is establishing the leadership of T-Mobile. Landis has never been under pressure since this Tour de France began, and he doesn't look under pressure now.
Frank Schleck doing the pacemaking there. Cunego sitting in his wheel and 51. Now thinking about whether or not they can survive, but there's a massive battle going on behind.
Menchov is coming back, and so going the other way is Jens Voigt. How depressing was that? 10 kilometres to go for the leaders. Well, Menchov, I think wisely, has dropped back out of the red zone and is pacing himself back into the action here as he now tries to get back onto line. This is Carlos Sastre trying to get back in on the terms of the action. But a little bit off the pace. Levi Leipheimer behind Sastre. Voigt won't give up. He's jumped onto the back wheel of Menchov.
Jens Voigt is really quite remarkable. He saw number 14 coming up there, his teammate Carlos Sastre, and thought, I'll help you out a bit, mate. I'll get you to the back wheel of Dennis Menchov, and then I think I'll probably pop. And there it is. Thanks very much. Well done. Let me see if I can just find a little bit more while we go back to the two leaders.
Frank Schleck of Luxembourg. We've never had a climber like this since the great Charlie Gaulle. They called him the Angel of the Mountains. Schleck, remember, 10 minutes behind the race lead. I think soon will discount Pereiro. Schleck is getting himself up into the leaderboard of this race if they don't catch him. Eddie Mazzolini, where's he found his legs from? He's racing across the gap.
Well, he's found his legs because this is a legendary climb. Everybody wants to win on the slopes of the Alpe d'Huez if they can. And Eddie Mazzolini here, number 25, is riding himself back to the lead. We're going to see a three-man leading group in a couple of moments. Just have a look at the average speed, though. 14 kilometers an hour. 8.5 miles an hour is all they are doing on the slopes of this climb. That gives you an idea of just how steep the gradient is.
Well, Eddie Mazzolini has won only 3 bike races this decade, and he's now suddenly gone from a disaster in the Pyrenees to a man who's catching the leaders, and Menchov has cracked again, and that is great news for Leipheimer now.
But did you see who cracked him? It was Jens Voigt who cracked him, and looks to me as if Floyd Landis has now decided, I'm off on my own here this afternoon. I am going to try and ride this Alpe d'Huez à la Armstrong.
This is why the big challengers of the Tour allowed the break of the day to run the mountains. They had decided it was man against man on the Alpe d'Huez climb. This fabled climb, Floyd Landis now is trying to distance all of his nearest challengers. He could well be racing back into the Maillot Jaune. What a couple of days that's going to give him through the Alps. Levi Leipheimer fully recovered now, riding well. I do not know how Jens Voigt is doing this for his teammate Sastre.
Well, Jens Voigt is the kind of rider who can ride on 200 kilograms of courage, and that's what he's doing this afternoon. He is pounding himself into the ground because he's trying to pull Carlos Sastre back into this race. There was a massive attack there which came from Floyd Landis, but did you see how easily Andreas Cloden came back? He tickled those pedals, and the next minute he was back in contention, back on the wheel of Floyd Landis. But these guys here, Sastre, Cadel Evans and Levi Leipheimer, are only at around about 10 seconds. 3 riders at the head of the race. It's difficult to try and keep everything up to date. Cunego and Frank Schleck joined now by Eddie Mazzolini, but the yellow jersey is in difficulty. He'll be looking for that 10 kilometres to go banner to figure out whether or not he's going to keep the yellow jersey at the end of today's stage. Cadel has gone. Well, that's a surprise.
We weren't expecting that. Cadel Evans thought this climb would suit him. He's gone off the wheel there of Levi Leipheimer, who is actually riding a very sensible race with Carlos Sastre here, slowly but surely cutting through the debris, watching it float away and making his way toward the front of the group.
Hi, I'm Frank Schleck and you are watching the Tour on ITV.
Less than 8 kilometres to the finish at Alpe d'Huez for the three-man group. Frank Schleck, Damiano Cunego and Eddie Mazzolini. 2 minutes 20 behind them, the group containing Andreas Klöden and Floyd Landis, racing to be the new yellow jersey.
Every flag of Europe waves here, and Scandinavia, the Norwegian flags, the German flags, as they watch here the leaders, Frank Schleck, Cunego and Mazzolini. And the only man who's gaining real useful time is Frank Schleck at the moment, but they are coming on the mountain. The strong men of the Tour de France are climbing. Landis, for the first time, is looking as though he's reaching the red zone on that bike, as we now see Arrieta disappear by. Landis looks across. That big breakaway is being dropped away now, as you see Landis looking for help here, and Klöden will give it. As they race away from the camera, Landis and also Klöden, look at this, Sastre is closing, and so too Levi Leipheimer.
Leipheimer looking very comfortable, must be ruining the day that he had a bad performance in the individual time trial, ruining the day that he cracked a little bit on the first Pyrenean mountain stage, but since then he really has looked like a real solid leader of Team Gerolsteiner. Jose Luis Arrieta having a chance to see the big leaders of the Tour de France fight it out, but I think, Phil, in a couple of meters' time, you'll see Carlos Sastre and Levi Leipheimer back with the two men, Klöden and Landis.
They've made a sensible climb, hit the red zone, slowed down, got back in the blue zone and recovered, and they've kept a rhythm, and they are coming back. And when they do come back, and this is one of the teammates now of... looks like it might be Axel Merckx dropping back from the breakaway. It is. Merckx had a great ride today nonetheless.
Well, this could actually tilt the scales a fraction, because he is going to get picked up. Look at him looking over his shoulder. Real pro. This is a real professional move, and that is why it's always good to have a teammate in an early breakaway like that, because as we saw Jens Voigt pull himself inside out a little earlier for Carlos Sastre, we are now going to see Axel Merckx, and I hope Axel's got something left in the engine room, because he could then be a great ally for Floyd Landis for the next couple of kilometres.
The four senior men of the Tour de France here now. Andreas Klöden, best place number 71 is Floyd Landis. So Carlos Sastre is here. Leipheimer is here. They've got rid of Menchov.
Look at this, Landis is going.
Goes. He's going, he's seen his man. He's seen his man, and he's going to try and shout, Axel, go! Axel, go! Because he wants to try and take him clear. This, and he's shouting. You can see his lips moving here, as Axel hasn't realised he's come to him. As they now try to open, look at the effort now of Axel Merckx, giving him the bottle, giving him all he can. He's going to pace him, but look at the face-off behind, because Sastre's bridged the gap. So too has Klöden. Where's Levi?
Levi's in difficulty with that little acceleration, but you mustn't panic. Ride at your own rhythm. Keep the revolutions at around about 4,500. You can hear the turbo starting to kick in, and he should be able to ride himself slowly but surely back to that group of four men. But it's good for Floyd Landis now to have a teammate alongside him. Little bit of a misunderstanding between the two of them there. I think he came back to Axel Merckx just a little bit too quickly.
This is the face of Michael Rogers a bit further down. He was with the leaders, in a little bit of trouble at the moment. Michael continues to climb here. There's the maillot jaune. Oscar Pereiro living through the hardest days of his career. He has to finish within 1:29, as Parra also drops away there from Cofidis. Look at the crowds here. We're heading up towards the village of Huez. There's the Alpe on front, and these are still the three leaders on the road. Two of them joined by Mazzolini.
Well, the group behind Landis and Klöden and Leipheimer are now at just 1 minute and 50 seconds to these three leaders. On the front, Frank Schleck, followed by Damiano Cunego and Eddie Mazzolini. If you think the sport of cycling is losing its popularity, I think this crowd on the Alpe d'Huez this afternoon blows that theory out of the water.
It's really tough on the climbs. Dessel still trying to get through, still trying to cut a path all the way up towards the leading group. as the battle starts now. 3:27 is the gap back to Christophe Moreau. This is George Hincapie still cutting a path through the trail here. Hincapie hasn't given up this challenge yet either.
Well, Hincapie is
where
around
he came from. He's come from the front to the back, so I don't suppose he's going to hang on to this group.
Well, he's going to look across there, look at his former teammate. They rode together for 3 years, shouldering Lance Armstrong to victory in the Tour de France. And this afternoon, Hincapie will try and get onto the back seat of this train Grand Vitesse this afternoon, because this is the high-speed train of France. Hincapie picks it up a little bit there on the back in the blue jersey to stay in contact. But what's important now is to know exactly where the yellow jersey is. He starts the day with 1 minute and 29 seconds advantage over Floyd Landis, but we don't have a time check at all on exactly where he is. Jose Luis Arrieta, he's actually going backwards as well.
Well, the Norwegian flag flies here, the Italian flag is flying, the heroes are coming up. George Hincapie sadly is going back right now. A long breakaway for him, not going to be victory on top of Alpe d'Huez as he now looks over his shoulder and is losing ground. Out up front now, Floyd Landis is trying to consolidate a first position in the Tour de France, and Merckx is still helping him here. Leipheimer, Kloden and Sastre are with him. Meanwhile, the former race leader, number 35, Dessel, is still trying to fight his way back in, and he's making progress because he's now passed the Rabobank national champion, Michael Bogart.
Well, this man had such bad luck at the start of the climb. In the first kilometre of the climb, his chain came off. He was helped by his teammate, Samy Dumoulin, to get the chain back on, get back into the race, and he's ridden all the way through the drop riders and fought his way back into this race. He really is a rider who's been transformed by wearing the yellow jersey.
It is now a battle of 3 riders out in front. The battle for the race lead is amongst the 2 Phonak riders, and behind is Cyril Dessel trying to be dragged up to the leaders. The 3 leaders, the parting of the ways here now. Eddie Mazzolini is a big danger to me. He's not really helped these 2, yet he caught them. I'd be very wary of number 25 right now.
I certainly would. We're looking now at the banner saying 5 kilometres to go to the finish. These riders not really a challenge, Phil. 10 minutes behind for Schleck, 18 minutes behind for Cunego, and almost an hour behind for Eddie Mazzolini, as everybody is battling here to pull themselves back into this race.
There's Martin Brun there, who is the chief referee, and this looks to me as though Dessel is getting himself back into the action here. He's coming up on the groups as he cuts them off one by one. This is the man who tasted the yellow jersey, and Floyd Landis took it off him by 8 seconds. He's now raced back up to the yellow jersey of Oscar Pereiro. He's going to join him. Pereiro now with Michael Rogers as well. This man continues now to ride like a champion. The road is uphill, and I think it's a false gap here. I still think the 3 leaders are holding this gap. But this is a fabulous piece of pacemaking by Axel Merckx as he drags them all up. Landis is sitting there. If they can get those 3 leaders, I wonder if Landis has the energy to break away. Kloden is looking very, very good off to the right. Leipheimer is also cool now. He's got back up here. Cadel Evans has lost ground here. No news on Cadel. We've simply run out of cameras to go and find him.
Race radio just crackled through there. Actually, Cadel Evans is just 15 seconds behind the group containing Floyd Landis and Andreas Kloden. These guys having a little bit of a chat. Come on.
Cunego's fed up of Mazzolini just sitting there, having caught him with the legs he's obviously got and not helping, and he's gone back to have a word. They're both Italian, don't forget. There's an attack by Kloden. Look at the grit of the teeth by Landis. Another answer here. Big effort by Kloden, and I don't think there's much of an effort by Landis. He seemed quite cool. Now they're getting rid of Mazzolini. If you won't work with us, we're leaving you behind.
Damiano Cunego wants this afternoon. He doesn't want to drag anybody to the finish line at the end of today's stage. Andreas Kloden now knows that he's got a little bit of a gap, but just a little bit further back. Denis Menchov is climbing himself back into this race with Cadel Evans on his wheel. The leaders now, Phil, are going through the 4 kilometre to go point.
Nobody into this Tour de France who will give up. These boys are fighting to the limit today. This is a superb battle of the Alps.
Hi, I'm Axel Merckx, and you're watching the Tour de France on ITV.
Three kilometres to go now. They are closing in, Landis and Kloden. but can they bridge a minute and a half before the finish? I don't think so. One of these deserves victory.
Well, these two men are seriously class riders. They're both young riders. These are the riders of the future. Frank Schleck, the winner this year of the Amstel Gold Race. Alongside him, Damiano Cunego. Cunego said he was going to win a stage here in the Tour de France, and what a stage that would be if he could. Denis Menchov mustn't panic. The Tour de France is not going to end here this afternoon. There are still two very difficult days to come, tomorrow and the next day, but he must get himself into a rhythm, try and ride himself back into the race. Alpe d'Huez, the riders are coming into the outskirts of town, but Phil, there's still an awful long ride to the finish.
They've still got to make a few more twists before they cross through the shopping area and across the square here. These two are drilling into the road. They're closing in with every pedal rev on the two leaders. And look at all of the work is being done by Kloden. Why should Landis help? He's ahead of him in the overall classification. Why should he just not follow him to the line? That's the way it should be. That's the pressure. Kloden looking over his shoulder, but credit to Andreas Kloden. He's not expecting any help either.
He is not expecting any help. He knows he has to get rid of Floyd Landis. He wants to win the Tour de France this afternoon. Menchov's face tells you how hard this climb is. Race situation, the summary at the moment. Frank Schleck and Cunego leading ahead of Eddie Mazzolini. The next two men on the road are these two men, Kloden and Landis. A little bit further back, Merckx, and a lot further back, this man here, but he's now got his teammate Rasmussen. This might be the turn. This guy can climb.
Michael Rasmussen has climbed right up from the back here to try and give Menchov a leg up, and if Menchov can hang on, this race is far from dead even today. What an incredible battle. We've never seen a battle like this that I can recall on the mountain. Those two leaders are not safe yet, Schleck and Cunego. And Kloden is riding. Here's help falling back because Mazzolini now, this is incredible. How many teammates are there that keep falling back, looking for their team leaders, giving them all they can till they can't give them any more?
He will feel a boost to his morale now, Andries Kloden, to have Eddie Mazzolini alongside him. The distance between the two leaders and the group Kloden-Landis is now just down to 1 minute, and it's a further minute back to the yellow jersey. He's still holding on to his overall lead, but it is oh so very precarious in the final couple of kilometers.
No one has saved anything for the two horrendous days ahead in the Alps. They are giving everything today, and the Maillot Jaune is still there. Schleck has gone. This is a huge effort by Frank Schleck to win for Luxembourg. In the true tradition of Charlie Gall, he's grown his wings, and Frank Schleck has cracked Damiano Cunego.
Well, he knew that the only way he could win the stage was to get rid of Cunego, because Cunego is the fastest sprinter of the two riders, and he really is floating away.
That
Look at
is
his
an
face.
effort. That's a huge effort. He's kept it going out of the saddle like a track sprinter. How much have I got? And now he'll see the banner here, which will say just 2 kilometers to go. It gets slightly easier for a moment.
Slightly easier for a moment. It levels off for about a kilometer or so, but he knew he had to get that gap. Look at his eyes, looking up to see if he can see the summit of the climb in front of him, starting to concentrate. But Cunego will not give up. Cunego may well have the chance to recover when we get to the flat part of this course. This man now must consolidate on his lead, but we're picking up all kinds of riders here. We've got Eddie Mazzolini pacing Kloden, pacing Landis. Ruben Lobato is there as well. We're looking a little bit further down here, the yellow jersey. He's caught up with the polka dot jersey.
Simoni has come up from nowhere as well, showing the signs that he's recovering for the mountains. Maybe a win for him in the next couple of days. Cadel Evans is locked in with the Maillot Jaune. The Maillot Jaune, if he loses the lead tonight, he'll still be a challenger.
He will still be a challenger because he's ridden superbly here on the slopes of the Alp. Eddie Mazzolini now tapping out the pedal revs for his teammate behind him there, Andreas Kloden. Floyd Landis doesn't look like a rider who's been challenged at all. They've been joined, or they have joined, Stefano Garzelli and Sylvain Chavanel, who are trying to keep themselves in contact, still thinking of a high place on today's finish this afternoon. But in the front, it's Frank Schleck who's got the advantage. He's got around about 5 seconds lead over Damiano Cunego. Look at that face. You can read pain written all over it.
26 years of age, Frank Schleck. He's only won 3 races. He chooses them well. He's been the champion of Luxembourg this year. He won the Amstel Gold Race, which is a classic. We finished on the same finish line as the Amstel Gold Race 2 weeks ago in the Tour de France. Now look at this as Cunego refuses to lie down here. He's getting to the kilometre kite, is Frank Schleck, and they are coming from the back at the same speed.
These are the men of the future, Phil. 26 years of age there for Frank Schleck, 24 years of age for Damiano Cunego. There is the kite. That will be a sight for sore eyes. He will know what the run into the finish line looks like. He's been here, he's checked out the course over the early part of the season just to know what it's going to be like. When he goes through the kilometre, it levels off a fraction. He goes around a roundabout, and then he knows he's got the flat part of the course past the town square, then the famous left-hand bend before you then see right in front of you the finish line. I tell you what, it is not an easy finish line.
Well, the battle here of Floyd Landis here and Stefano Garzelli, they're just sweeping up all of the riders of the breakaway of the day. As we make a switch up here to the right on a hairpin bend, Landis still watching and making Andreas Kloden do all of the work. Meanwhile, this man is flying to the top of the Alp, a first Luxembourg ever to win here, as he'll swing up the left-hand finish very shortly. Frank Schleck, this was a great plan, and he thanks two men, David Zabriskie of the USA and Jens Voigt of Germany. They destroyed themselves on the low terrain and in the valleys to give him the chance to win the day, and he never let them down. Schleck comes home the winner today. This is a moment I think every professional cyclist dreams of, to win at the top of Alpe d'Huez, make sure that Cunego hasn't also sprouted wings, and then begin to celebrate. When you make this left-hand corner, and people have fallen off doing that, you line up for the uphill finish, and you race to the line, and you fall into the arms of your waiting supporters. CSC, without Ivan Basso, have pulled a big one out of the bag here, and Frank Schleck has done it for them. Look at his face. Time to zip up and wave to the crowd. Cunego will have to be content today with second. Frank Schleck, the winner at 26 years of age.
Well, he looks over his shoulder now. He knows he's got the making and the beating here of Damiano Cunego. Cunego, I think, a little bit upset. He just could not respond to that acceleration of Frank Schleck. But don't forget that name, Phil, because that name, Cunego, is going to be a star of the future. Now the big battle is what we're going to think about next. This is the group containing Floyd Landis. We'll start the clock when Floyd Landis crosses the line, and we'll have to wait and see whether or not it's going to be 1 minute and 29 seconds. And that's the most important thing for Floyd Landis this afternoon in this group, still being led by Andreas Kloden.
Look at Bjarne Riis, so happy with his man there. But I'll tell you what, Landis should get third here. But watch out for Stefano Garzelli, the man that topped the Iswad first is right there. And it's been a great ride by Garzelli, but can Landis sneak a bonus? It's a tough sprint, but he's going to have a go for this. Kloden would like to take it, but I really think Landis has got to try and take this one. He needs every second here. Not everybody in the Tour de France has taken defeat in the face today, and Garzelli is going to take him on. The man of the mountains comes clear. Stefano Garzelli gets third. Landis crosses the line in fourth, and the clock starts now. If it's more than 1 minute 29, Landis will lead the Tour de France tonight.
Well, we made a quick calculation. If we keep looking at the clock, it has to say 2:39 when the yellow jersey comes in. If Floyd Landis is going to take the overall lead this afternoon, we're up to 1.5 minutes. Here is Carlos Sastre coming in, a good ride by him. He'll move up in the overall standings this afternoon. But where is Levi Leipheimer? There he is in the pale blue, ridden up at his own pace. What a great day for this man. I didn't think he could climb quite that well, but the ride of 6th overall in the Tour of Switzerland was an indication that he was a good climber. Levi crosses the line at 1:50. We're still now waiting, Phil. This is the yellow jersey. The time on the clock we need to look at is 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
He still has 40 seconds to go to the finish here. It's going to be very, very close. Boy, we've gone back to the Pyrenees. The battle between Dessel and Floyd Landis. Deja vu. Now it's Floyd Landis and the Maillot Jaune. As they continue to finish, it looks as though it's going to be touch and go. 2:39, and the clock will tick by at 2:18. Finishing Denny Menchov and Rasmussen. They've lost a bit of ground today. Landis is going to be in yellow. He swings into the straight and he's got to kick it. 9 seconds to the line. He's sprinting. He's not going to give it away. It's as if he knows what he's looking at. 6, 7, 8, 9. Now it's 1, 2, and it's counting in favour of Floyd Landis, who has become the leader of the Tour de France tonight. But hats off to Pereiro. He rode great. 10 seconds he's out by.
Well, that was a superb performance by Pereiro. He really battled. He was looking at the clock. He wanted to keep the yellow jersey on his shoulders for another day. Well, what about Cyril Dessel, who's coming in now? The man who was well up at the start of the day. He was in 3rd place. The Frenchman is still the best placed Frenchman in the Tour de France this afternoon.
The best placed man of the lot, though, was Frank Schleck. In the end, he had 11 seconds on Damiano Cunego, just enough time to zip up his jersey for the sponsor. Another minute behind those two, Stefano Garzelli denied Floyd Landis the 8-second time bonus for third, with Andreas Klöden fifth. Carlos Sastre was 9th, 25 seconds behind the Landis group. Levi Leipheimer another 14 seconds back from him. Denis Menchov lost 2 minutes 21 to the winner, a minute 11 to Landis. Oscar Pereiro arrived with Michael Rogers 10 seconds too late to hold on to his yellow jersey. Behind the big names, David Miller came in 55th, 9 minutes down. Bradley Wiggins in a large self-help group half an hour behind the winner. 4 men abandoned today, including Tom Boonen. 152 are left. Well, we've seen some contorted faces on Alpe d'Huez over the years, but rarely have they belonged to the winner. Frank Schleck rolled across the finish line and into the arms of his girlfriend, followed swiftly by the arms of Floyd Landis as he left the Dope Control caravan. By the time he'd taken the plaudits of easily the biggest cycling crowd he'd ever raced in front of in his life, he sounded concussed by happiness once Ned caught up with him.
Frank, there are certain things that every bike rider dreams of in a career, and you've just done one of them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, guess you're right. What should I say?
Alpe d'Huez, I mean, it doesn't get much better and bigger than that, does it?
No. I think I'm sorry. I've so many emotions, so many things running through my head, and I think I need a little time to realize what just happened.
Yeah, some satisfaction in a stage win for Frank.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a very nice job from the team, and beautiful job for Frank, and yeah, everybody.
It must go a long way to making what's been a very difficult tour a bit more of a pleasure for you.
It's a big pleasure for sure.
Jana as loquacious as ever, having seen his main hope for the race overall, Carlos Sastre, move up a place to 5th, but lose time to Floyd Landis, as almost everybody has. Oscar Pereiro is second now, 10 seconds behind Landis. Cyril Dessel holds on to 3rd, and Denis Menchov is still 4th, but now 2 minutes 12 behind the new race leader. The only man not to lose time to Landis today was Andreas Klöden, up 1 place to 6th, and alongside his main rival from start to finish.
Ich habe natürlich immer noch 1-2 paar Reserven aufgehoben, weil ich wusste, wenn Landis jetzt nochmal weggeht, dann muss ich nochmal kontern. Aber ja, er braucht ja nicht führen, er hat 2 Minuten 30 Vorsprung von mir und so musste ich fast alleine arbeiten.
Wie sehen Sie das jetzt? Ist heute die Tour entschieden worden?
Noch nicht entschieden, wir haben noch 2 schwere Bergetappen und schweres Zeitfahren und wir schauen mal weiter.
A solid day for Klöden, but not his T-Mobile teammate. Michael Rogers is 5 minutes down in 8th spot now, 1 place below Cadel Evans, who also lost time. Levi Leipheimer is 9th at 6:18, while Frank Schleck has ridden himself up into 12th overall with his stage win. David Miller is 64th now, and Bradley Wiggins 129th. Well, he's given it away once. I doubt he'll be looking to do it again. Floyd Landis' aim now is to keep the jersey until Sunday. And all he really needs to do to achieve that is defend. Here he is with Ned.
In the big mountains, you've asked big questions of your major rivals, and so far they've had none of the answers they're going to need.
No, until now, my good days have come on the right days. Hopefully a couple more here in a row. Klöden was very strong today, and I assume he's getting stronger because he wasn't exceptional the first hard day in the mountains, but I figured he would be good.
Are you riding within yourself? Are you not tempted at some point just to skip away from them and get the job done, maybe?
No, I think the wise thing for me is to be conservative. I don't have any reason to try to win a stage. If it works out that way, I'll try. But I think my chances in the time trial are good, so I'll hope for that. And again, I'll play my cards the conservative way.
I tell you what, if Floyd Landis gets any more conservative, we'll have to start listing the Labour and Liberal riders in this race just to conform to the Representation of the People's Act. Anyway, it's obviously up to his rivals to raise Floyd Landis now, otherwise he'll slipstream them all the way to Paris. Tomorrow could be their best chance. Before we preview stage 16 though, let's launch our 3rd and final tour competition. To enter, just answer this question. Who was the last British rider to win a stage of the Tour? And your choices are A. Chris Boardman, B. David Miller, and C. Sean Yates. You can either call us with the answer on 09012 93 33 93 or text the word Tour and either A, B or C to 63337. First prize is a luxury weekend for 2 in Paris with VIP passes for the final stage of the Tour on the Champs-Élysées, all courtesy of the sports nutrition brand Powerbar. 5 runners-up will get copies of Matthew Rendell's biography of Marco Pantani. All entries cost £1 and the lines close at midnight this coming Thursday. Right, tomorrow the riders go back to the foot of Alpe d'Huez and set off on the biggest day's climbing of the entire race. Stage 16 will take them over the Tour's high point, the Col de Galibier, over 2,500 metres, the Col de la Coiffère, the Mollard, and up to another altitude finish, one that hasn't been on the route before. Unlike the Alpe d'Huez, La Toussuire has no great Tour de France history. By tomorrow night, it might have.